My husband's ex told the kids to treat me like a stranger, so I did the same, and they finally noticed what that meant. The text came through on a Tuesday afternoon while I was working in my home office. My stepdaughter, Hazel, 14, had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs in the bathroom. I'd gone to grab coffee and saw the screen light up. The preview showed enough. Mom says we don't have to pretend anymore. Just be polite like she's Dad's roommate. I stood there holding my coffee mug, reading those words over and over. Each time felt like a small knife twisting. I'd been in their lives for 3 years, married to their dad, Trevor, for 2. In that time, I'd learned everything about these kids. I knew that Hazel needed her backpack placed by the front door the night before school, or she'd have a complete meltdown in the morning. That Owen, 11, only ate sandwiches cut diagonally, never straight across, because the diagonal cuts made them taste better somehow. That both kids needed their permission slips signed exactly 24 hours in advance, because their mom would inevitably forget until the morning they were due, creating absolute chaos. I knew that Hazel's anxiety spiked before every single math test, and she needed someone to quiz her repeatedly, using the same voice, the same patience, until the numbers finally clicked in her brain. That Owen had recurring nightmares about getting lost in crowded places and needed someone to check that all the doors and windows were locked before he could fall asleep. That Hazel secretly still slept with the stuffed elephant her grandmother had given her before she died, even though she'd never admit it to her friends. That Owen practiced his spelling words better when someone made them into a song. I knew which teammates' parents could be relied on for carpools, which teachers responded better to emails versus phone calls, which homework strategies worked, and which ones led to tears. I knew the name of Hazel's first crush, the one she'd never told her dad about. I knew that Owen was being quietly bullied by a kid in his class, but was too ashamed to tell anyone. I knew all of this because I'd paid attention, because I'd shown up, because I'd cared. Their biological mom, Vanessa, had been poisoning them against me slowly since the day Trevor and I started dating. Little comments dropped casually into conversations. How I was probably temporary. How real families don't include replacement. How their dad would eventually come to his senses and realize what he'd lost. She'd skip her weekends with them, then tell the kids I'd probably convinced their dad she shouldn't come around as much. She bought them new phones specifically to text them during our family dinners, asking what I was feeding them, if I was being nice to them, reminding them constantly that she was their real mother and I was just someone passing through. The phones were presented as gifts, generous presents from a loving mother. Really, they were surveillance devices, tiny screens that let her insert herself into every moment of our lives together. I'd tried everything imaginable to make this work. Family therapy sessions where the kids sat with crossed arms, barely speaking, clearly having been coached by their mother about what not to say. Long, exhausting conversations with Trevor about setting boundaries with his ex, most of which ended with him saying he couldn't control what she did on her time. Patient, age-appropriate discussions with the kids about blended families and how love expands rather than divides. How caring about me didn't mean betraying their mother. Nothing worked. Because how do you compete with biology? How do you fight against someone who has the ultimate trump card, who can say I'm your real mother and have those words carry the weight of blood and birth? When I saw that text Tuesday afternoon, something fundamental inside me just broke. Not dramatically, not with anger or tears, just a quiet snapping, like a bridge cable giving way after years of strain. Fine. I'd be the stranger they wanted. Wednesday morning started like every other morning. My alarm went off at 5:30. I made coffee, checked my work emails, started thinking about what I'd need to accomplish that day. Trevor left at 5 for a project site in Springfield, which meant he'd be gone for at least 12 hours. Hazel came downstairs at 6:15 in her volleyball uniform, hair still wet from her shower, backpack slung over one shoulder. She had that focused look she got before tournaments, already mentally preparing. Can you drive me early today? I need to be there by 6:45 for the tournament. Coach said if we're late, we don't play in the first rotation. I looked up from my laptop. You'll need to ask your dad about rides. She blinked at me, confused. Dad's not here. He left at 5 for that Springfield project, remember? Then I guess you'll need to figure out alternative transportation. She stood there in the kitchen doorway, completely still, like her brain was trying to process a language she didn't speak. What? You're seriously not taking me? I'm just a stranger. Your dad's roommate, according to your mom. Strangers don't rearrange their schedules for other people's kids. Her face cycled through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, because this wasn't how I behaved. Realization, as she understood I'd seen the text. Anger, because how dare I bring that up. Panic, because the tournament started in half an hour. Are you kidding me right now? This is insane. Not even a little bit. Not kidding at all. For 3 years, I'd been her backup for absolutely everything. Every forgotten assignment that needed to be retrieved from school because she'd left it in her locker. Every ride to practice or games when Trevor was working late or out of town. Every 11 p.m. emotional crisis about boys or friend drama or feeling overwhelmed by expectations. Every early morning emergency when plans changed and schedules shifted. I'd learned the schedules of all her teammates' parents, so I knew who could carpool in a pinch. I'd become the team mom by default, bringing orange slices and water bottles and organizing the end-of-season parties. This is insane. You're being petty. I'm being exactly what your mother suggested. Politely distant. She grabbed her phone and called Vanessa. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Called Trevor, who was already on the highway, 2 hours away and unable to turn back even if he wanted to. She tried 3 different teammates' parents. 1 didn't answer. 2 couldn't help on such short notice. apologized profusely, asked if everything was okay at home. She ended up missing the entire tournament. Her team lost without their starting setter. Her coach called Trevor during his lunch break, disappointed and concerned, asking what had happened to our family's usual reliability. Hazel spent the day in her room, crying and rage texting her mother about how I'd ruined everything, how I was a horrible person, how she'd been right all along about me. I felt terrible listening to her cry, but I also felt something else underneath the guilt. Relief, maybe. Or the grim satisfaction of finally letting them experience the natural consequences of their choices. Owen's science fair project was due Friday morning, first period. For 2 solid weeks, his half-constructed volcano had been sitting on our dining room table, gathering dust and judgment. Typically, I would have helped him every single evening, reminded him gently about the timeline, made sure he had all the supplies he needed, asked him questions about his hypothesis, taken him to the craft store when he realized he'd forgotten something essential. The night before it was due, I would have stayed up until midnight, or later, helping him paint the volcano the right colors, ensuring his baking soda to vinegar ratio was correct for a good eruption, printing his labels on nice cardstock instead of regular paper, helping him write his display board in neat handwriting that the teacher could actually read. Thursday evening at 8:30, with the project still barely started, with the volcano looking like a sad lump of newspaper and flour paste, Owen dragged himself downstairs to the kitchen where I was reading a novel at the table. "Can you help me finish my volcano? It's due tomorrow, first period, and I haven't even painted it yet." I didn't look up from my book. That sounds like something a parent should help with, but you always help me with projects. You helped me with my diorama and my solar system and my biography poster. I always helped Owen, my stepson, but according to your mother's instructions, I'm just Dad's roommate. Roommates don't do school projects. That's not appropriate. His lower lip started trembling, that telltale sign that tears were coming. But Dad's on a conference call with the Japan office. He said it's going to be another 2 hours at least. Then you should have managed your time better. Asked one of your actual parents for help earlier in the week. 2 weeks is plenty of time. I'll get a 0. Mrs. Patterson doesn't accept late work ever. Not even with a doctor's note. That's unfortunate. Maybe next time you'll plan ahead. Real tears started rolling down his cheeks now, dripping onto his shirt. The same tears that had manipulated me for 3 years into fixing every problem, solving every crisis, being the safety net for poor planning and last-minute panic. Please. I'm sorry about the text. I'm sorry about what Mom said. I'm not doing this because I'm angry, Owen. I'm doing this because your mother is right. I'm not your parent. Your parents should be handling your education and your projects. I've been overstepping. This is better for everyone. He cried harder, his whole body shaking with it. Eventually, he dragged the pathetic, half-finished volcano back upstairs to his room. I could hear him trying to work on it. Lots of frustrated sounds. Something crashed, probably paint. More crying. The sound of tape being ripped. More frustrated noises. Trevor finally finished his conference call around 11 p.m. and went upstairs to check on Owen. By then, it was far too late. The volcano looked like a sad, lumpy pile of papier-mâché with uneven paint drips running down the sides.